TEX. Now I have a lot of like arguments. We're gonna invoke the BibLaTeX package here. I have a lot of arguments here that you can use or not. The one that you should use though is backend equals bibber. The rest of these are totally optional. I'm listing them there so that you're aware that there's a number of arguments that are available for use in BibLaTeX. After you invoke the package, within your preamble, you'll want to add this line here. This command tells BibLaTeX to look for a bibliography that's called bib. All right, so it's that simple, more or less. Okay, so now you can just type lines. Obviously, you don't have to write stuff from Moby Dick, but there's 3 different types of citations that are available in BibLaTeX. And there's some alternatives that I list in the MWE file if you're going to use a different backend. If you're going to use the BibTeX backend, the citations look just slightly different, citation commands. But this is what they look like if you're using Bibber as a backend. This is a parenthetical citation here, a footnote citation here, and then a full citation, or the longest inline citation available, the sort of standard one there. And then the last command that has to do with bibliographies, if you're using Bibber as a backend, is print bibliography, and that will just tell BibLaTeX where to print your references page. So give that a shot if you haven't already, and let me know if you have problems. Hopefully you don't. I think this should just work. I'm gonna copy some stuff over from MWE.text just to show you what they look like. Okay, so it's working for me. Is it working for other people? Maybe you're not there yet. Let's see. This is approximately what it will look like for you. Let's comment this out. How are we doing? Not working for Renee. Yeah. One thing that Renee and whoever else can try is this alternative. It will require some typing, but so instead of using Bibber, you can use BibTeX. And can people see what I'm typing here? Is it too small? Good enough. So you can use package natbib. If you're using natbib, this parent site command won't work. Instead, you'll want to use site-p command. And there's no foot site in natbib, so if you wanted to do that, you'd have to do something. You'd have to invoke the footnote command, which I haven't showed you yet, but you do something like that. If you want to use natbib, you also have to do this to tell it what the bibliography is, and use this command to tell it what bibliography style you want to use. Unlike, and this is why I had a problem at the beginning there. Unlike Bibber, you don't, if you're using BibTeX, which natbib uses as a backend, you don't want to invoke the file name extension. It'll mess it up. So just write bib, and then the bibliography style. I use APA-like because it's what I'm comfortable with, but there's a lot of different styles. Okay, and then this should work. Hopefully it works for Renee. And also, I'll just reiterate, all of this is in the MWE document. So if you don't get around writing all this stuff down, it's no big deal. So I'm just going to wait for maybe a minute to let everybody play around with that. Maybe I'll just talk. I think this is a really nice way to format your references. And one great thing about it is that after you submit to journal A and get rejected, and you need to submit to journal B, it's really easy to change your references to the reference style of journal B. It can save you literally hours of formatting time. And yeah, that's possible with like some word extensions and stuff like that. But I think it's just particularly elegant way to do it, and that LaTeX affords. So again, I think this sort of citation management system is sort of a sufficient reason to at least seriously think about using LaTeX. So did anybody try the natbib version? Did it work, Alma?
Yeah, this is.
Oh, go ahead, Renee.
This is Renee. Yeah, I tried the natbib and it worked somewhat, but my citation came out as a question mark and not the actual citation. So yeah, I just have to look at it again.
Are you on Overleaf or somewhere else?
No, I'm just in the console using PDF
Okay.
LaTeX. Yeah, so.
I wonder if do you have a BibTeX distribution installed?
I am it's a BibLaTeX.
BibLaTeX, okay. Yeah, so the first version of what I showed you in theory should work. But yeah, I'm sorry that's not happening. If you wanna email about it, please feel free to email me later about it. We can try to troubleshoot. And Hannah is in Overleaf and it's not working. That's curious. I wonder, so yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what would be going on there, but yeah, again, Hannah, I'm happy to talk about anything related to this stuff with you at any point. Okay, so let's move on to that. So I think, again, a third sufficient reason to think, at least seriously think about using LaTeX is the functionality it provides for coding really large, complex documents, for which you'll really want to use include only and include. And those of us who are writing dissertations, or those of us who are, maybe you're writing a book manuscript, this is really how you should start thinking about formatting your main LaTeX document. Okay, so there's two like ways to include external text files. There's include, and then there's input. Both of them are commands, and I'll go over both. Include is really for inputting like large chunks of files. So you should think of like dissertation chapters as things that you would use include for. Yeah, maybe even if it's a really complicated section in an article, you might want to use include. The big advantage with include is that it comes with a preamble command, include only. And include only allows you to specify, so you can go through your main dissertation document and go through and include all of your chapters and format everything you want it the way you want it formatted, and not really worry about it. And then maybe though you don't, when every time you compile, you just want to see what chapter 3 looks like. You don't want to have it go through the process of compiling all of your chapters, because it takes a long time and it's clunky and your other chapters are complicated, etc. If you use include only, you can either not write them in the first place, or you can comment them out, and LaTeX will only include the files that it sees in that preamble command. So again, and you can exclude all of the files that way too. Say you just want to nicely format the front end of your thesis, and you don't want it to print out everything else, you can just tell it not to include any of the files that you included in the body. Sounds simple, but it can be just it can be a game changer to have those. I mean, another thing is that you can actually have different versions of documents quite easily this way. Maybe you have 2 versions of chapter 1 that you want to work. Maybe you want to workshop one version with a group of people, and then another version is for your advisor. You can really easily, comment and uncomment in that include only file and do it that way. So another thing to note about when you use include, it puts everything in that file on its own set of pages. So you can think of it, we haven't learned this command yet, but there's a command called new page. It wraps everything above and below include in new page, essentially. So for that reason, it's really not the greatest command for small chunks of files that you want to put in the middle of a page or something like that. For that, you would want to you would want to use input. So input's is a lot more nimble command, but it's less appropriate, and it has some speed penalties vis-a-vis include. So the nice thing about input is that you can put it before your preamble, and you can use it to, for instance, if you have a standard format that you use in all of your LaTeX documents, you can just start using input and do the path to whatever your formatting preamble is. So you can have a plain text file that's just a preamble and nothing else without a begin document. And input will just essentially copy and paste that whole preamble into your LaTeX file. So it's easy. It's kind of like a macro, essentially, that you're storing outside your main document. So in that case, I just put in a title formatting, some title formatting options that you might want to play with in the file title_format.tex. It's really just, it's something I use in my documents, but you know, you can play around with it. It's just an extra package with some title formatting stuff in it. And I won't really go over that unless you have questions about it. And then you can use it in the body of your document. I think this is particularly useful for tables. Tables are another, besides bibliographies, they're another LaTeX style document that are often generated by things besides LaTeX. So in R, you can automatically produce LaTeX formatted tables as output, which is incredibly useful when you're writing a paper. And a really nice thing about this is that tables get updated a lot while you're drafting a paper. So it's really handy to just input the table rather than like copy and pasting it or something from R into your main document. It's really useful to invoke an external file that just automatically updates every time you go through your R script to produce the table. So yeah, we're going to look at 2 examples. And I guess unless you've, so put this in your preamble. You won't see any differences yet because we haven't worked with title formatting, but just put it in your preamble. And then this should generate a table if you put it in the body of your main.txt. See if I have anything there. No, okay. So I'm just gonna go from here. Okay, so it worked for me. So the way I coded this table is invisible to you because it's in the table.tex file in the images and image table folder. But yeah, you should be seeing that table. Is everybody seeing it? Okay. So that's input. Pretty straightforward. It can save you a lot of headaches though. All right. So now I'm just gonna, how much time do I have? Okay. Great. So I'm gonna go through some common commands and common environments to end. Alma asks if you can change font type and size in the table. Yes, you can. And we will get there. We will get to manipulating the table itself. For now, I want you to just see how you can include a table or any text file from outside. Really any text file, plain text file will just get, basically you can think of it as like copy and pasting into your main file. That's what input's doing. So I'm gonna just kind of try to describe the commands that I use frequently when I'm writing a LaTeX document. And, you know, I think they'll be useful for you. It's going to be stuff that I think a lot of LaTeX tutorials actually start with, like how to make boldface font, how to make italic fonts. But really, like, I'm not, you know, there are glossaries of commands that are like 50 pages long. We're not going to do that. We're just going to go through some things that are useful. And other things, other commands are things that you can find on your own as you need them. Or, you know, there's a couple resources I've included in the zip file, including a not so short guide to LaTeX, which is really worth your time reading. And then also a LaTeX cheat sheet, and that will list a lot of these commands, in that cheat sheet. That's really nice to have around. Okay, so we're gonna start with document structure, and then we're gonna talk about text manipulation, forced breaks, cross-referencing, hyperreferences, and then equations. And that's a lot, but we're gonna get as far as we can. So yeah, especially academic articles and technical documents are really just like nested lists. And they have a pretty consistent format, and LaTeX really has engineered that format into its basic functioning. And we're going to learn I'm going to show you how to do all of these things. They're very simple to invoke. All of these things are literally a command. So give this a shot. You might want to so I've just put some silly stuff here, like generic things, but you might want to like call your sections things that are comprehensible to you, like document structure, syntax, like ways that might make sense if you're using this MW or this main.tech document as a place for your notes. It's an opportunity to organize your notes. I have I have done this so that I have like some tabs here so that it's a little bit easier for me to see the document structure. Totally optional. You don't need to do that. It could just be one straight line. The lowest level of section in a LaTeX document is technically it's a paragraph, but the lowest section that will be typeset with like a title in it is a subsection. So hopefully that's all fairly straightforward. And then this is footnotes. That's a footnote command that will generate a footnote for you. Note how everything in the footnote is within curly braces here. So it's operating a little bit differently. It's operating more like a command and less like an environment. I guess they're all commands, but make title takes all of that metadata that we included in the preamble and just formats it for you. There's ways to manipulate the title to make it so it's not like centered and large and so on and so forth. If you need to play with that, I would recommend going to the what did I call it? Title format.tex. It has the title sec package in it, and it will show you some ways to play around with the sections and subsections. And then if you go to the package page and documentation, it shows you a lot of the options that it affords for titles. One way to just look at what that input file is doing is just to comment out the input line and then you'll see what the standard title formatting looks like. We go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and do that as well. Okay, looks like people are having some success with that. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So it's giving me an error here. It's telling me there's an error. I invoked the make title command, but I didn't put any metadata before begin document, so it doesn't know what to put there, which is fine. Let's see if that works. If it gives me a table of contents at least. Yeah, so this table of contents is kind of silly because there's only one. I only have one. I actually don't have any sections in my document. Oh yeah, here it is. I just did something weird. All right. Okay, so here's the table of contents for me. Right here, oops. There's ways to like have table of contents that are hyperlinked and stuff like that. So it makes it easier for people to jump around your document if it gets really long. That can be really handy. Okay. Everybody, that pretty clear to everybody? Okay, I'm just gonna kind of like gloss this part because like this part, like I would keep saying, this part's endless. Here's some things that you'll just probably use. I think more or less in order of use, at least for me. This is how to emphasize words. The nice thing about this command is that if you nest, so if you'll put words between the curly braces to emphasize them. But if you nest like if you have 3 words like these 3 within the curly braces, and then you nest another emphasis word within the first set of curly braces, it will adjust the emphasis according to the environment. So that's different from text IT, which is just italicize. If you nest text IT inside another text IT, it's just means italics. It doesn't mean emphasis, so it won't change it automatically for you. Text BF is boldface, underline. It's pretty self-explanatory. Small and large. There's a lot of other size commands as well. There's normal size. If you play around with the caps in this large command, you'll get different sizes of large. So title caps large is smaller than the all caps large, and the no caps large is smaller than the title caps large. So that's worth playing around with. Justification commands, ragged left and flush right and centering. Pretty self-explanatory. Kind of. Ragged left means justify everything on the right. Flush right means justify everything on the right. Ragged right is your default, and flush left is your default. I think they're equivalent. I might be wrong about that. In any case, functionally, they do the same thing. So go ahead and play with those commands if you want. You can invoke the commands just without curly braces. And if you do that, everything following the command will be, like, for example, centered. The way to limit, these differ in the way to just limit the commands to a region. For these text manipulation commands, you just put everything in curly braces. If you want to just justify one region differently, then you'll want to, instead of doing the command version of these, you'll want to do the environment version of ragged left, flush right, and centering. I'll show you what that is, but just to tell you verbally right now, it's just /begin, and then curly braces, centering, /and centering. That's a lot. I think in general, I would recommend using an environment for these justification commands rather than just the normal command version. Any questions on that? Okay. So, okay, font type. Another question that you might have right off the bat is maybe you don't like the default font type that LaTeX uses. Maybe you want people not to know that you're using LaTeX right away or something. You can change the font style, and you do it by invoking a package. There's lots of different font styles that are available in LaTeX. I like Math Design, Adobe Utopia for some reason. But if you go to this website here, it gives you as many fonts as you could ever want. Some fonts have math support, so they will typeset in your math equations in the same font, and some don't. So just be aware of that. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, sorry, I forgot to show you this example. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, so if you want to play around with different fonts, you can put this in your preamble. That's just one example. Line spacing, if you want to do like double spacing in your document, or if somebody requires you to, I recommend that you use the package set space. It's pretty simple. You just invoke the package and then use the command double spacing. Everything subsequent to that command will be double spaced. It also has 1/2 spacing. If you want to switch back and forth between double and single spacing, it also has this command. Line spread is a way of adjusting the line spacing but it does it universally. So if you use double spacing, if you use the set space package, it will only double space the body of your text and not like footnotes or figure text. But if you use line spread, it will format your footnotes and everything else with the line spread that you specify. That can be bad or good, just depending on what your needs are. 1.5 is approximately double spacing by like word standards, 1.5, 1.6. It can be nice to have like very fine grained control over the line spread that you're using too. So that can be nice if you have a page limit that you're kind of fudging. It's easy to do in LaTeX. So for what it's worth, you can do that.